Well, its role was absolutely crucial because, according to the official statistics of Ukrainian General Staff, about 85% of Russian military and Russian armored vehicles are targeted by UAV drones, and we know that a significant part of these drones was supplied by our allies. Especially, we would like to thank to the government of Republic of Latvia and United Kingdom, two countries which are running the drone coalition for Ukraine, which played a crucial role in deterring Russian aggression. And I would say that mainly because of this fact, Russians are not still occupying the biggest Ukrainian cities like Kharkiv, Sumy, Dnipro or Zaporizhia, because as you know, the Russians are very close. And we can compare, for instance, to the situation of 2022. It was a year of completely domination of artillery. At that time, Russians outnumbered us by number of shells in proportion 1 to 10. So we could fire maximum 5,000 to 6,000 shells per day. Meanwhile, as Russians had 50,000, 60,000. On the peak of their advance in Luhansk region, they could fire up to 80,000 shells per day. At that time, Ukrainian drones were dominating the skies over Donbass, and Russians were, I would say, very, very weak in terms of production, and especially they had very few experienced operators. But Russians are quick learners, so they learned a lot from us, and now situation completely different. So this year, especially, it started in 2024. This completely changed the nature of war. So this war is about drones. The drones are dominating not only the skies. You see that Ukrainian sea drones effectively annihilated 1/3 of Russian Black Sea Fleet and made it to retreat to port of Novorossiysk. The drones, the land robot systems are now only emerging on the battlefields, but I'm absolutely sure by the end of 2025 it won't be a miracle if ground robotic systems without men could attack and effectively take control of trenches. So it could happen within a month. If on the beginning of war, the change of technologies was quite slow. The technologies changed, it took from 1 year to 1.5 years. But now they change completely within maximum of 6 months. I would say that in 2022, the drone attacks were very rare, mostly. Yeah. And we lost several of our comrades since then. We lost one of our friends, call sign taxi driver, in Bakhmut on the beginning of 2023 in a rare Russian drone attack, and it was seemed to be something unprecedented. So it was not typical for that time. We lost another friend of us during the winter 2023 near Liman in Donbass. He was killed in Russian strike drone attack. And by the end of the year, attacks from Russian and Ukrainian drones was much more typical. We were hit by my comrade near Vovchansk in Kharkiv region by Russian strike drone. It was end of 2023 also. And we later came to hospital, and it was already the time then it was so typical that you have to hide and watch. At that time, I would say in the beginning of war, there were no such a thing as priority targets. So the drones mostly attacked either a group of soldiers, starting from 3 minimum, or some very precious targets like tanks or armored vehicles. For now, everybody is a target. Even a single GI on the front line is a target. So the number of drones is that significant. So Russians and us, we can easily attack a single soldier on a battlefield. So which means effectively everybody is a target, and everybody feels it. Of course, it creates a lot of psychological impact, stress, pressure on everyone, because I remember myself, then you're on the front lines, even if you have electronic warfare devices with you, still they're not capable to stop every drone, because they're using different frequencies, and especially if you're talking about optic fiber drones, the newest generation of Russian drones, and we saw it in Kursk during our incursion. the range of Russian optic fiber drones was up to 20 kilometers, and it was seen as unprecedented. Now, Russians already using optic fiber drones with distance of about 40 kilometers. 40 kilometers. So you feel yourself like a sitting duck, and you should watch yourself. And the only way to stop it is not electronic warfare; it's rather pump rifles. This is the only effective way how to stop Russian rotor, especially rotor UAVs, the most common drones used by Russians and by us on the front lines. Well, I would say that dependence on Chinese production is not that critical for now, because on the beginning of war, of course, Chinese were dominating everybody, and they were selling their drones both to Ukrainian and Russian army. So it's very cynical way of thinking of China. They do it always, so they call, this war the crisis, and with all these diplomatic words, they always doing the same thing. They're doing business, they're raising money. Luckily enough, our local producers now are not dependent that much on China, so we have several companies which localize production of drones on 100%. So they can use it on 3D printers, so they produce all the components for the drones now in Ukraine. Several companies, it's not that many, but still, it's a good beginning. And we understand that we have to learn very simple lessons. First of all, you should think about reduction of prices of production of your drones, because if you have more cheaper drones, it's much better than have expensive but less drones. Second lesson, it's about range, the distance, how far you can hit the target. So basically speaking, for us and for Russians, this is like, the race, who would be quicker and who would be hitting the targets as far as possible. For now, kill zone on the front line, it's 20 kilometers. So on 20 kilometer zone from both sides, so it's generally 40 kilometers altogether, everybody, including civilians and military, they are targets. They can be killed just within seconds. But now this kill zone would enlarge within months up to 40 kilometers, and by the end of this year it could be 100 kilometers. Russians are now using in massive quantities their newest production. It's called mini Shahed, with a range of 50 kilometers, and it's called Molnia, lightning. And it can easily hit any target, both armored vehicles, pickups or whatsoever, and would do the same. The third lesson is work with artificial intelligence, because if operator is losing control over drone because of electronic warfare, the only way how to reach the target is machine vision. If drone has machine vision, has AI, it can easily hit the target itself. And the last lesson learned is that those only win who can find a way of combination of different technologies. I will give you a very simple example. Ukrainian military intelligence GUR, run by Kirill Budanov, successfully shot down two Russian two warplanes near Novorossiysk in eastern part of Black Sea about 2 weeks ago. And they did it because they used combination of sea drones and missiles. So, combination, like if you have a robotic system on the ground with UAVs on it, it's a good combination. If you have a sea drone with a machine gun or RPG or missile on it, it's a good combination. It's like a so you have to mix it, So this would be the next stage of this war, combination of different ground and air systems, sea and air systems. Let me be cruel. I think European Union and NATO members are so innocent that you are completely not ready for this type of war. And the biggest threat is not only about technical superiority, you're also not good in preparing enough significant number of operators of drones. Because preparing and making good operator of drone takes a lot of time. And we pay the highest price with leaves of our operators, because you can train like for 2-3 months, but you can make a good operator after 1 year service. It takes a lot of time. And in your case, even if you try to launch this program of preparation, you still would be way behind Ukrainian and Russian army especially. Because Russian military units are learning very quickly. As you know, Ukrainian President Zelensky was first to create as a separate branch of military. It's called SBS, Силы беспилотных систем, so unmanned vehicles, as a special branch of military, and we have different UAV units in nearly every brigade now in armed forces, including territorial defense, where I have an honor to serve. The Russians did the same 2 months later, in April 2024. So they're behind us, but very, very close. But I think the problem with NATO members, you're not learning. Well, you're learning, but not quickly enough. And the problem would be, even if something happens, if Russia attacks, you definitely don't have significant number of ready, well-trained and motivated operators. Meanwhile, Russians have. And their operators are so good, they would be dominating your skies very quickly. You cannot even understand how quickly your tanks and armored vehicles would become of targets. Easily, because every pickup, every tank is simply a sitting duck. So the time then tanks were dominating the battlefield are completely over. They are now targets. That's the problem.